You probably think America's heroin crisis is a modern street tragedy, but the data tells a much more calculated story. This epidemic wasn't born in dark alleys. It was meticulously engineered in clean corporate boardrooms and high-tech laboratories over a century ago. We're pulling back the curtain on a crisis driven by a lethal combination of flawed medicine, corporate greed, and a fundamental hijacking of the human brain. To understand why this happened, you have to go back to the American Civil War, where the massive use of battlefield morphine left tens of thousands of soldiers completely dependent. Looking for a cure, a German pharmaceutical giant named Bayer synthesized a new compound in 1898 called diacetyl morphine. They marketed it under a proud new brand name, Heroin, derived from the German word for heroic, because workers reported feeling remarkably brave and energized while taking it. Bayer sold it worldwide as a non-addictive cough syrup and a safe substitute for morphine. It took nearly 3 decades of skyrocketing addiction rates before the United States government finally banned the substance entirely in 1924. But the real crisis we see today wasn't sparked by old history. It was reignited in the mid-1990s by a new wave of pharmaceutical marketing. Companies introduced powerful prescription painkillers like OxyContin, launching aggressive campaigns that assured doctors these new pills were virtually non-addictive for patients in chronic pain. Prescriptions flooded the country, but chemically, these pills were nearly identical to molecular cousins like heroin. For 15 years, millions of ordinary Americans developed profound, unseen physical dependencies in their own medicine cabinets. The catastrophic tipping point occurred when the government finally realized the danger and cracked down on pill mills, while drug manufacturers reformulated the pills to make them harder to crush and snort. Almost overnight, millions of physically dependent people were cut off from their legal supply. This is where basic street economics took over. A single black market prescription pain pill could cost $40, but a bag of illicit street heroin offered the exact same chemical relief for just $5. The Mexican cartels recognized this massive, desperate consumer base and flooded American suburbs with cheap, ultra-pure heroin. The transition wasn't a choice, it was a predictable migration dictated by price and physical necessity. The reason this transition is so brutal lies in the raw biology of the human brain. When heroin enters the body, it crosses the blood-brain barrier with terrifying speed, converting back into morphine and locking directly into your mu-opioid receptors. These receptors are designed to handle natural endorphins, managing pain and emotional stress. But heroin acts like a sledgehammer to the system, triggering an artificial flood of dopamine that completely dwarfs any natural reward the brain can produce. To protect itself from this massive chemical overload, the brain immediately adapts by shutting down its own natural endorphin and dopamine production. This triggers the rapid cycle of tolerance. Within weeks, the user is no longer chasing the initial euphoric high. They are taking the drug simply to feel normal and to escape the agonizing physical trauma of withdrawal, commonly known as being dope sick. The biology turns a behavior into a survival mechanism. The macroeconomics of this addiction are staggering. The entire crisis acts as a massive parasite on the American economy, draining trillions of dollars in lost labor productivity, overstretched healthcare systems, and criminal justice costs. Entire regional workforces have been hollowed out, leaving local businesses unable to find healthy employees. But the market didn't stop evolving with heroin. Because importing agricultural poppy-based heroin across borders requires complex logistics, suppliers pivoted to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. It can be made cheaply in a lab with no crops required, and it is 50 times more potent than heroin, making it incredibly easy to smuggle. Today, street heroin has been largely contaminated or replaced by these cheaper synthetics, driving overdose numbers to historic heights. The individual consumer is caught in a trap where the math of the supply chain always favors the cheapest, most lethal chemical. The crisis we see today isn't a failure of individual willpower, it is a structural trap created by 100 years of corporate medicine, aggressive supply chains, and a biological vulnerability that changes the very definition of survival for anyone caught in its grip.